So my goal today is to show you our cues in action. So I have Mr. Moose here out on my long line. I'd say, I keep saying this is like a 10 or 15 foot lead. It's actually a 20 foot. I looked at the tag. It's a 20 foot lead. And I have it wrapped around his belly just to form a very makeshift harness. And that's just to prevent him from charging away. It adds a little bit of a constrictive pressure if he does move to the end of it. And up to this point, while we've been outside together, he has not made any attempt to lunge at or towards anything. We've been going very nice and easy together. And I've given him the full length of the lead to work with. So I'm going to show you how I use our cues and our markers to communicate with each other while we are on a walk here. And I highly, highly recommend if you don't have a long line, you get one for this guy. Because it can be tempting when you've got a big boy to give him a short leash. That way you can keep more control over him in the event of an uncontrolled distraction. But I'm going to show you how a long line can actually promote responsiveness and promote control in distracting situations. You ready, bud? Let's go. Yep. So anytime he looks to me, I'm going to mark for that because there's a lot going on out here. We've spent some time out here already today, but there's still a lot that can happen. We might have a squirrel hop from overhead. We might have some crows start cawing. We've got our traffic on Archer Road right over here, and we could have a client pop out of a door at any moment. So if he chooses to look to me instead of being hyper-focused on the distractions around us, I always mark for that. And it's just as simple as saying, yep, good job, here's a cookie. Good boy. Once I have sustained performance from him like I do right now, I'm going to start to ask him for specific behaviors. And we're going to use our new chin rest that I introduced earlier to help him learn where I want him to be when we're moving together. Let me show you what that looks like. Yep. So I'm going to start by walking backwards here and rewarding at my left hip. Yep. And then I'm just going to start walking forwards again. Yep. With that same chin rest in the same spot. And this has introduced a heel position. And you can practice pivoting with this. Yep. Yep. Good job. Good boy. I recommend trying to just stick to right-hand turns for a little while because it's a lot easier to turn with him on your outside than it is to try and pivot into him and make him turn left and push away from him. I'm going to show you, he just screwed up. So I'm going to show him where I need him to be. And then I'm going to try to turn. Oh, you gave in so readily there. Good job. A lot of times when you're working with a big dog and you just suddenly try to turn left, they're right there in front of you and they don't understand they need to get out of the way. Yeah. So he still has some nice sustained engagement with me here, which I'm really happy about. And I'm going to reward him for that by giving him his termination cue. Yep, good boy. And that lets him know he is now free to be a dog and go do some dog things. Thank you. So now he has the ability to sniff around. I'm going to even drop my entire lead. I still have the handle on my hand, but he has the full length of the leash to work with, and he can go explore. We've been working in this spot for quite a while, so he probably thinks he knows everything there is to know about the space. But when you're working with him out in more unfamiliar territory or when you're first getting started, it's helpful to use that thank you, that termination cue, to let him know that he's free to go sniff around, he's free to relieve himself, he can go check things out, and be a dog for a little bit. That relieves a lot of frustration and tension. And then he has the choice, like he just made the choice right now. He's like, I went, I checked it out. Miss Laura, you're the most fun thing around right now, so I'm gonna check back in with you. And I can mark and reward for that and give him some more cookies. Good boy. Now, what happens if you get thrown a distraction? If you have him at the end of the lead and suddenly there's a pedestrian or something. This is where our engage, disengage exercise comes in. And you caught a bit of that in the short video I just emailed to you where I had him laying in a down and there were some clients in the lobby with us. All you're gonna do in that situation is the minute you see Moose acknowledge, oh my gosh, something new, something interesting, something exciting, yep, and then you turn and walk away. Yep, oh boy. And the goal, that might not even be on film anymore, the goal there is for him to respond to that marker by immediately looking at you. It took him a hot second for that surprise marker that I just gave. He was looking over like, wait, what did you see that I didn't see? But that marker should prompt an immediate head whip. He should immediately check back in with you when you say, yep. And he can say, oh, what did I just do to earn a cookie? And what he just did is he looked. He's allowed to look. Keep that in your head whenever you're walking together and just hanging out together in the big wide world. He's allowed to look at things. He's allowed to sniff things. He's allowed to listen to things. What we don't want him to do is decide on his own it's time to throw down and interact with those things without our express permission. So if you pay him for just looking, he's going to learn that that's the best choice he can make, and he's going to stop reacting. Instead, you're going to get a dog that's able to look at something and then check back in with you. Like, hey, did you see that? Did you see that I saw that? Did you see that I saw that and then I just saw you and then you should give me a cookie? That's the lesson here. You're allowed to look, bud. You're definitely allowed to look. What we don't want is for him to feel like he has to then interact. Whether it's out of frustration or fear or enthusiasm, he's a big boy and that could be misread in a lot of ways. So preempting any decision he makes to try and interact with something by simply saying, yep, you looked at it. Now let's go the other way and here's a cookie for not losing your shit. That gives him the ability to self-soothe, calm himself down, and disengage, remove himself from the distraction. On the other hand, if it's something familiar, it's something that you know could be a positive experience for him, you can again acknowledge that he's looking at something. Yep, move away a little bit, give him a cookie, and then say, thank you. And he now has permission to go forward and use that environmental distraction to reward himself for making the right choice. And that choice was, I acknowledged it, I moved with mom, and now she said thank you to me, so I can go and interact the way that I want to interact. Okay? A lot of times, owners feel like they have to push for performance when their dog is misbehaving. And that is the worst choice you as his handler can make for him, because when a dog is distracted and you start trying to throw behavior-based cues like sit, down, here, come, do something else at them, their brain is not going to process that request, and instead you're going to build frustration because you're throwing a lot of unfamiliar pressure, a lot of familiar pressure into this potentially unfamiliar situation, and that's going to promote reactivity and lunging and barking and misbehavior, okay? The best thing to do when you see that your dog is distracted is to mark for that distraction. Let them know, hey, I see you're distracted. Thank you for noticing it. Yep. Let's go this way instead, okay? Let me know if you have any questions about outdoor excursions, outdoor interactions. When you are working with your dog outside, more space is less reactivity. It's counterintuitive, I know, and he's a big guy, so you might feel like you need to have a tighter leash on him. But when you give him the space to go and get curious about something and be a dog, and then he has the choice to check back in with you, yep, good boy, you will find that he builds a lot more confidence in his own surroundings, and that you have a lot more control over him when it's time to work through a distraction, because you've built the verbal and visual cues like a hand target to show him where his heel needs to be. Yep, good boy. And as you can see, he's dragging the leash right now. I don't have it choked up. I'm just using the visual and verbal cues that we've introduced this week to show him where I want him to be. Yep, sit. Yep, good boy. He's such a smart guy, and I can't wait to continue our work next week. I'm going to really hone in on some of the handling sensitivity and kind of medical exposure and acclimation next week, because we've spent this week really getting to know each other and enjoying each other's company and building some reliable communication tools. So I'm going to throw some stressful scenarios at him and use those communication tools to help work through it and help him tolerate some of the stressful situations, okay? You did so